Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Thank you. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tirabhanachari Jamuna Tirabhanachari Jaya Radhamadava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtutara Sutta Srimad Bhagavatam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Itai Gauda Premanandi. Oh glory to the assembled devotees, oh glory to the assembled devotees, oh glory to the assembled devotees, oh glory to Shishiguru and Shidara. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 80, the Brahmana Sudama visits Lord Krishna in Dwarka. Text number 8 and number 9. Pativrata patim praha mlaja mlaja mlajata vadena mlajata vadane nasa daridram sidamana vai vipamana pigamyacha pativrata patim praha mlajata vadane nasa daridram sidamana bhai vipamana pigamyacha pativrata patim praha mlajata vadane nasa daridram sidamana vai vipamana pigamyacha this chant. Pativrata, faithful to her husband, pating to her husband, graha, she said, mlajata, drying up, badanena, with her face, sa, she, daridram, poor, sidamana, distressed by, indeed, bepamana, trembling, abhigamya, approaching, cha, and translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The chaste wife of the poverty-stricken Brahmana once approached him, her face dried up because of her distress. Trembling with fear, she spoke as follows. Purport. According, Jai Shri Shri Kishore Kishore. According to Sridhar Swami, the chaste lady was especially unhappy because she could not obtain food to feed her husband. Further, she was fearful to approach her husband because she knew that he did not want to beg for anything other than devotion to the Supreme Lord. Text number 9. Nanu Brahman Bhagavata Shaka Shakshat Trijapati Brahmanyascha Saranyascha Bhagavan Sattvatar Shabha. Translation. Sudama's wife said, O Brahmana, isn't it true that the husband of the goddess of fortune is the personal friend of your exalted self? That greatest of Yadavas, the Supreme Lord Krishna, is compassionate to Brahmanas and very willing to grant them his shelter. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains in his commentary how the Brahmana's wife anticipated every possible objection her husband might make to her request that he goes to Lord Krishna to beg charity. If the Brahmana may say, quote, how could the husband of the goddess of fortune befriend a fallen soul like myself? And of course, she replies by saying that Lord Krishna is Brahmanya, very favorably disposed towards the Brahmanas. If Sudama may claim to have no real devotion for the Lord, she replies by saying that he is great and wise. He is a great and wise personality who will surely obtain the shelter and mercy of the Lord. If the Brahmana might object that Lord Krishna is equally disposed to all the countless unhappy conditioned souls suffering the fruits of their own karma, she replies that Lord Krishna is especially the Lord of the devotees, and thus, even if he himself did not grant Sudama his mercy, certainly the devotees engaged in serving the Lord will mercifully give him some charity. Since the Lord protects the Sattvatas, the members of the Yadu dynasty, what difficulty would there be for him to protect a humble Brahmana like Sudama? And what fault would there be in his doing so? Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Prabhupada Swami Namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashakyade Shatarine Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So the quality is the beginning of this narration, very, very touching and beautiful narration of the friendship of Lord Krishna with Sudama. Sudama Brahman, they were school friends. And that friendship was so profound and deep that the narrations of the affection and the love that is there between the devotee and Krishna is extremely touching. It's one of the favorite narrations that are there, and that expresses that sort of very, very um, pure love that is there between Krishna and his devotees. And one of the highlights, or the many, many, there's so in each of Krishna's pastimes, there's always these so many incredible and beautiful instructions for those who are trying to follow the path of Krishna consciousness. And one of the instructions that is highlighted in these verses, the beginning verses, is the relationship that is there between Sudama and Sudama's wife. Um, the and it's an incredible set of instructions for those who are in the household um, life, how that relationship should be, and specifically in the description of the character of these two personalities, Sudama Brahmana and his wife, is described in terms of not only being um, highly elevated devotees, um, but also in terms of their austerity, their simplicity, their freedom from material desires, and their extreme devotion to the personality of God. The faith, the very strong faith in the personality of God in Krishna. So the fact of the circumstances that surrounded them was pretty much because of their devotional character, that was not an interruption. That was not something that will hamper their devotion, how you say, the flow of their devotion. The circumstances did not touch that. And it was very extreme circumstances because it is explained that they were pretty much in a terrible condition of poverty. Very, very, very extreme poverty. To the fact that they hardly ate. The description of their body, because of not properly have the capacity to provide and to maintain their body because of poverty, was pretty striking. They were emaciated. It is described here that you know, dried up. It's like when you see people, sometimes you see pictures of people who are going to this extreme hunger, you know, lack of food in situations like that, and you see they basically dried up, and lack of luster, and pretty much very, very, very difficult. And so, in despite of these situations, they were perfectly satisfied. Sudama was perfectly satisfied. However, one of the things that we have to learn is that the this partnership or this relationship of husband and wife is something that um, is one of the ashrams that are there, by which most conditioned souls have to go through in order to properly elevate oneself in Krishna consciousness, to advance. So it's a very important relationship. It's considered among the most important samskaras that conditioned souls have to go through. Samskara means, these activities that once is a very important, how you say, moments that conditioned souls have to go through, that marks and makes an imprint in one's consciousness. And the result of that imprint is that enhances the cultivation of the necessary characters that are there for achieving perfection, for achieving devotional service. We hear in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Lord Chaitanya gives these instructions. What is the actual identity of the living entity? And he say, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Sudra, nor I'm a brahmachari of a householder or a sannyasi, but who I am, I'm identifying myself with the servant of the servant of the servant of those who are of those who serve the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who is the master of the gopis. So our identity is to be the servant. So at the heart of all relationships that we have to go in this life, and the most possibly involved relationship that we have, is the relationship, well, I won't say not the most, but among the most important relations that we have is the relationship that happens for the conditioned souls in general in family life, and especially with one's partner, one's wife. But regardless, in this type of whether it's in any type of relationship, the fundamental quality that must be there is one is love and the other one is service. And these things are very related, service and love. So they have to be affection, but affection actually comes from this sincere, selfless service. It is important for us as devotees that we enter into the mood of being the servant of the servant with the right purpose or with the right understanding. The right siddhanta is that the relationship of service are based on Krishna consciousness. So I'm serving a devotee of Krishna, and that is my duty. So when one sees relationships that are based on this selfless service for the purpose of assisting or facilitating the Krishna consciousness of our partner, of the people that we have a relationship with, that's the real thing. That's part of the identity that is given to us as the servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees. So the relationships are based on service, are based on love, and from there's trust. And to be able to do all that, one have to actually sort of embrace the character of the devotee of humility, tolerance, and especially respect. Especially respect. So, based on these things, then you have this partnership. Now, we hear in these verses the highlight of this exchange between husband and wife. And the situation that we have here is the description of Sudama's wife as a highly chaste wife. And sometimes we hear, often with not a great depth of understanding, this idea that a Vaishnava wife or a chaste wife should be subservient to the husband. That, we hear some of these instructions are described in the Vedas, that the highest duty of the wife is to serve the husband. So the idea that, that wife is there simply to serve the, the desires or the purposes of the husband. And it is also understood that the wife must be subservient. They should follow the husband. They should follow the instructions of the husband. And they should be very submissive to that. And that is part of the Vedic instructions there, but it's not, you don't take the Vedic instructions without the context of the Vedic instructions. It's a culture. It's a culture of devotion, and it's a culture of service, of selfless service. So it's not a one-side thing. Devotional life, the life of Krishna consciousness, the lifestyle of Krishna consciousness is not about being comfortable in exploiting someone's or lording over someone. Nor is it right for someone to feel comfortable being lorded by someone else. It's not about that. It's about selfless service. And it's mutual. It's a partnership of mutual selfless service, fueled by character, by commitment, and by affection. The affection that is there, that this is something you actually, with commitment, with a you know service, with all this, then naturally affection and love finds a very safe space to grow. And then you have a partnership, then you have a relationship that is nourishing in Krishna consciousness. It's a mutual selfless service. And it's not about it, there's a balance, a very, very distinct balance of sacrifice, of selfless service, without sacrificing your personal needs. And you don't want to see this balance from any side, not for the wife's side, not from the husband's side. So the idea that you have someone that is subservient, that is sacrificed themselves, and sacrifice the identity, without having that balance, is not is not a partner, is not a Vedic marriage. It's not Grihastha ashram. Grihastha ashram means that this partnership is constantly facilitating what is best for both. What is the best course of action? What is something that is going to help elevate both? It's a partnership. So, it's when the elements are there, when there's um, self-control, when there is commitment, when there is selfless service, when there is respect, when there is the constant uh, work towards becoming better and listening to someone, listening and trying to understand a complete different perspective, to be very much aware of the needs of the other, of your partner. When those elements are in place, then we're talking about that combination is able to be in the right position to serve the personality of God, to create that atmosphere, create an atmosphere that allows the Grihastha ashram to thrive. It's an ashram. Without these elements, in terms of principle, you cannot have an ashram. You can have a brahmachari ashram without these principles either. The principles of respect, of service, of control, all that. These are principles that are there, that are required for an ashram. And at the end, this ashram help us develop the proper character of a devotee. In the brahmachari ashram, we learn those principles and we cultivate that characters. In the grihastha ashram, you put all those principles into action in a very, very, it's almost like that state, you know, you got all the elements, you get the recipe, and now you put it in the cooker. That's a Grihastha ashram. And you have to be careful to do it, to follow the recipe, and you have to be careful not to do it in the mode of passion because you very easily can burn the whole preparation and ruin it. That's the cooker, the Grihastha ashram. But at the end, the principles are the same. So here we have this very beautiful exchange. So it's quite telling because we hear that the wife, she is explained, she was very much devoted to her husband, Sudama. And she accepted the reality of their condition, which is extreme poverty. In fact, she embraced so much the life that she, in one sense, is explained that was more austere than Sudama. Because whatever little tiny thing they can get for nourishing the body or for maintaining the body, she will defer, make sure that Sudama got, that her husband will have it. Even if it was too little, that it was not enough for one person, then she will give it to Sudama. No complaints. No complaints for herself. Very, very selfless. But when she brings this up, it's because her distress was about not being able to see that, to be able to perform her duties within this partnership, which was to assist her husband in his Brahminical activities. So, because of that, then she approached. Now, Sudama, on the other hand, he didn't like the idea of going and beg for his maintenance. It was not part of his character. It was not something that he was going to do. And what to speak of going to his friend, who not was just his friend, but he was his worshipable Lord. Both of them understood Krishna's position as the personality of Godhead. And both of them have that type of devotion in their household. But Sudama, to go to his friend to beg for material things, was absolutely, he was, he want, it not only was nothing that something that he don't want to do, but it was something that to think about it will, no, it's incompatible. It was incompatible. But because his wife asked, and because this is, part of relationship, is always compromise. To be able to, this idea that, you know, because of her request, then he accepted. Although it was not something that he would do, on his own. So the give and take, this selfless means that at times we're ready to do something that is not natural for us for the sake of assisting or trying to address the needs of our partner, of the people that we have relationship with. And that's a natural principle that is there in Krishna conscious relationships. We do it not because I'm calculating that I'm going to get something in return. Selfless means, the motivation is just love. And everything is based on the mutual goal to become Krishna conscious, to facilitate that for each other. There's a nice example too. There's five supremely chaste ladies in the history, in the Vedic history. They call the Panchakanyas. They're the five supremely chaste women in history, universal history. Sita, Gandhari, Draupadi, Ahalya, and the fifth one is sometimes I mention Kunti, sometimes also there's another one I can't remember right now. But anyway, one of the thing is that each one of them have some situation that they may be question their chastity. Say Draupadi. She married 5 husbands. So sometimes there has been this criticism of Draupadi in the Mahabharata. Especially Karna used that to criticize her. And but she was considered historically the supreme example of chastity. Sita, although she was kidnapped and she was tried in so many ways in the public arena about her chastity, and always, showed the supreme example of chastity. But this idea that you have a wife that should always follow the instruction of the husband. This idea that you're always subservient. And here is the greatest example of chastity in a woman. That when Lord Ramachandra was asked to leave for the forest for 14 years, Lord Ramachandra instructed Sita Devi to remain in Ayodhya and serve Kaushalya, Mother Kaushalya. And Sita refused to follow that order. The reason, then they have a discussion. So here's another example of this balance that is there. Sita gave her reasoning and Lord Ramachandra gave his reasoning. Lord Ramachandra's reasoning was that he was the one who has been as exiled, not Sita. And going into the forest was going to be very difficult. 14 years in the forest means, that they have to live basically with all the dangers of the forest. and there was a time of rakshasas in the forest. There was all kinds of dangers, and Sita was a princess that was never put in any type of difficult conditions. So Lord Ramachandra was thinking about her safety, and also his duty to give protection to Sita. Sita argued on Sita's side that her duty was always to be serving her husband. And in whatever situation the husband is, she will be there. So her motivation was selfless. And Lord Ramachandra accepted her desire, although he had to compromise or have to risk, in one sense, put it on that risk. At the end, he proved that it was Lord Ramachandra's fear that there was danger and she was vulnerable became true. But nevertheless, he compromised that. So this give and take is a very important element that is there. It's a partnership that is sacred and is possibly the most consequential means that we have, most of us have, to actually free ourselves from this self-centered, selfish propensity that we have as conditioned souls, overcome by the false ego, which the false ego um, um, influences to make us think that I am a controller and I have the ownership of things. My desires to lord it over material nature. That's what the false ego does to the conditioned souls. And like that, then not only objects but people are meant for my satisfaction. Grihastha ashram is a cooker. It's a pot that you put on the fire to, all that you have learned during your training in the brahmachari ashram, now you're gonna, put it into action. And the result of Grihastha ashram, if we do it correctly, with the principles that are there in terms of cultivating or reawakening our selfless service attitude in Krishna consciousness, then that will purify us from that propensity of Bhoga Aishwarya. I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. So it's a very touching example. This whole, going through the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially going through the 10th canto, is just pure nectar. Every story, every verse have this depth of beautiful lessons and expressions of this perfect harmony that is there between Krishna and his devotees and between the devotees with other devotees. And it's wonderful. Any comments or questions? say that again. Sivananda Prabhu, chapter number 2, yeah. Yeah, everything happens. I mean, there's a natural course. Nothing will naturally happen. And at the end, really, the goal is to become Krishna consciousness, Krishna Prema, Prema Pumartam Maham. The, 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 the ultimate, the supreme goal that we have is to develop love of Godhead. You know, there is a natural path that is there that is followed by uh, the four varnas and ashrams. You know, as how society and a natural social order is arranged. I mean, we are in Kali Yuga in which the Varnashram has been dismantled. So things what Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada gave us, our disciplic succession, is the means that actually are focused directly on these activities of devotional service and specifically with the chanting of the holy name to become purified and goes beyond the natural arrangement that is there in most of the time, which is the Banashra institution. So, so it's possible that we follow that. It's possible that we follow that, but even if we don't, there's still the means to actually become purified by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan mission. That is not depending on anything. It's just depending on you taking shelter on um, the hearing and chanting the Bhagavatam and the Srimad Bhagavatam, the holy name, and the service to the Vaishnavas. So when that's in place, it goes beyond all that, you know. There's situations that even if you go to the end of your life and you're far from being perfected, if you have dedicated your life sincerely with your ups and downs, your weaknesses, and like that, you know, if you did your honest best, Krishna will sometimes take you back. Even then, Lord Chaitanya will go and take you back. We see that those miracles in many circumstances in ISKCON. We see devotees who even abandoning their practices, at the end, Krishna makes the arrangement for bring them back. And they leave their bodies in a very auspicious situation that, you know, there is no doubt that they went back home to Godhead. So, of course, we don't gonna leave ourselves counting for that. But, you know, the idea, the principle is that we are, we don't abandon the process. You know, even if I fell down, I dust myself and keep doing. You keep chanting, keep listening to the Bhagavatam, keep serving the devotees, regardless. And then, you know, we can achieve that. However, it is important for us to try to follow the path. So, and part of the path is that for the ones of us who are in the Gihasta ashram, we do that very dutiful. For some of us, that are already retiring, then you start to understand and embrace retirement. And if it comes, that from retirement, you start to look towards sannyas. So, you know, but the whole principle is that through all that, you're dedicating your life to serve the Vaishnavas and spiritual master, serve Krishna, and following the principles of devotional service. Yeah. Yeah. Again, things happen naturally. We just try to embrace the moment, and when retirement means that now you have your time can be more start to get focused. You know, Grihasta, you have to be constantly working out. Again, uh, is extremely involved with those who are part of your inner family circle, your wife, your children, and all that. And you have to in service in Krishna consciousness. You have to take responsibility to facilitate, the needs both spiritually and materially. You have to be so there's a when that everything is secure in some aspect, then you can start to look towards retirement. Thank you for your kind words, Prabhu. Yeah. How can we become free from material contaminations? And well, the the process of hearing and chanting is our main, means in what is given to us. Nas Prapresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevadhyam, the Bhagavatam and listening to the Bhagavatam. Like I say, these things. You listening to the sound vibration of Bhagavatam, listening to the holy name, Chaita Darpana Marjana, and to be able to do that, then it's in relationship of how you deal with devotees. In both cases, in the case of listening to the Bhagavatam, then what is Shadasya, the previous verse that Vasudeva Kataruchi Syam Mahatsevayam Vipra. Uh, um, by serving the devotees, we can get this Vasudeva Kataruchi. So, so the serving of the devotees will give us the capacity to get the taste, to listen to the Bhagavatam daily, to listen to the messages of Krishna. And in terms of chanting the holy name, it's also in relationship to other people. We have to cultivate humbleness, tolerance, and respect. And as you go with that, don't expect things for yourself to be recognized or respected or acknowledged or this type of thing. And these are character that is connected to how we relate with each other. So that's how I understand it, that and again in the grihast, like among ourselves, we have opportunities to do that, to tolerate our differences, to have the humble position that I'm actually cultivating these principles of being a servant. And a servant is not just okay, let me clean your shoes, but which is there, but more in the aspect that you know I want to be of assistance. I want to be there, and to sincerely facilitate or being of assistance for the other devotees, to also flourish. So I cultivate this humility, the humility of being of assisting or serving, to have this selfless service and disposition and respect. We respect each other, and the respect, it takes so many facets. Respect takes the facet of that people are have different needs, are in different circumstances, in different positions. Everybody have a timing for things. So if I overcome by pride as self-righteousness, and I think past judgment of others, then I'm not being respectful. I'm disrespecting someone else's timing, someone else's expressions, someone else's needs. And without that, there's no, Krishna says, Lord Chaitanya says, you can't chant the holy names constantly. So we go through, that's a description of being neophyte. That's one of the perils of being a neophyte devotee, neophyte bhakta. We have to go through these upside downs and constantly, refining ourselves and being introspective and trying to. So it's part of the process. But these are things that we have to keep constantly in mind. We're depending very much on how we apply these three things: serving the devotees, and listening to the Bhagavatam, and listening to the Holy Name. And a part of that, we worship the deities, and that helps us to, purify our senses by the mercy of the deities. So it's a great, it's an amazing thing that we receive this process. Yeah, something that you want to add to that? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 The mercy of Guru and Krishna, the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas. Anything else? Krishna? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very important aspect to understand. And I think it has to do with with obviously with, as you mentioned and implied, is maturity. You know, as we go on through, as we put ourselves to the process, there will be growth. So with growth, we become much and much mature. Our maturity, our understanding matures, and we're able to refine our capacity to do these things. If we apply the process, our selfishness will, you know, naturally becomes, you know, you become more aware of others. So instead of being self-centered, you start to expand your capacity, broaden your capacity to become conscious of others, and that's the progressive path of Christian consciousness. We become more and more conscious, and always with Krishna in the center, and that's Christian consciousness. That's the culture. So it's a process. It's a matter of maturity. So the at least the teachings of Christian consciousness tell us about that is expected. It's always described as a gradual process. that it starts in point A and will land in point B. You know, like this. And there's a path, there's a process, and there's a process of gradual growth. And so if you become stagnant and you hit some obstacle, which is something that is understandable too, uh, then the symptoms will be very clear. It becomes very clear in any ashram. It becomes clear in the brahmachari ashram, the gihasta ashram, like that. The danger that you have, that we all, when in the process of these things, you commit an offense. You actually cross a line. When you cross a line and offend the devotee and offend someone else and in the process of offending, you you you, you start to go into the down spiral that can kill your position in Krishna consciousness. Whatever, obviously, whatever progress we do in Krishna consciousness doesn't go away, but you can actually sort of create a havoc, and you have to rebuild a lot of things if one makes offenses, and that's the big danger when we're being casual and too unconscious about our how we deal with each other in the process of relationship in Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very, very mindful of that. That All right, I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much, everybody. Grantarashimam Bhagavatam Ki